I find it extraordinary that the ice cream issue has brought up so many comments. DJ Bogg says the term hokey pokey has been used in reference to honeycomb toffee in New Zealand since the late 19th century. The origin of this term in reference to honeycomb specifically is not known with certainty, and it is not until the mid 20th century that the term that hokey pokey ice cream was created. More research again. Not so, DJ Boggs. Not so at all. This you may be talking about the development of hokey pokey in New Zealand, but hokey pokey was well established in London by the middle of the 19th century. It comes from Carlo Gatti, and if you go back to the history of ice cream, again, I can't believe I'm doing this. If you go back to the history of ice cream, you've got reference to ice cream being eaten by Charles II, by Ashmole, the fellow who was behind establishing the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, records that Charles II ate ice cream. But it's Mrs. Mary Earls who created a recipe in 1718 which relied on a lot of ice. So it was beyond the pocket of the majority of the middle class. She was the confectioner to Queen Anne. And most of Britain had to wait until Carlo Gatti arrived from Switzerland, not from Italy. So oddly, when we think of ice cream, we think of Neapolitan ice cream. I can remember having the most delicious Neapolitan ice cream surrounded by scunizzi, street children, who I think I also gave ice creams to, in Naples in the late 1970s. Beyond Naples, the other spectacular ice cream that you can find is on the streets of Tirana, or in a little, there's an ice cream parlor just off the main street in Tirana, just down the road from the cemetery housing the coffin of Enver Hoxha. But Gatti arrived in the UK in 1847, I think, and he set up his shop in Holborn and pumped out ice cream under the banner of gelati, ecco un poco. Here's a little bit. And that in Victorian slang became hokey pokey, ecco un poco. And it also led to the penny licks, which in turn led to indigestion and may have helped to spread tuberculosis, so that in 1899 there was a law specifically against the selling of poor quality ice cream to stop the infection. Meanwhile, Gatti set up ice houses and big ice dumps, a huge ice well near Regent's Park, which is now part of the London Canal Museum. You can still see it. And the next big move towards public ice cream came from Agnes Marshall, known as the Queen of Ice Cream, and then ice cream bikes, which were managed by Wall's Ice Cream with the slogan, "Stop me and buy one." But hokey pokey, as a term for ice cream, continued from about 1860 through to the beginning of the 20th century. So the New Zealand development of honeycomb toffee is quite a different etymology for that term, and I don't think this is poor research. I'm afraid the research is sound, and apologies if you're looking in a different direction. You need to look up the history of Carlo Gatti and the development of ice cream. As I say, there's a lot of spurious stuff going on around the ice cream industry. But ice cream has been traditionally very welcome in the UK and is the source of a lot of wealth and ice cream does very well in a recession, as indeed Lord Palumbo discovered when he came over. This is grandfather Palumbo, the father of the Lord Palumbo from the Arts Council, the grandfather of the Lord Palumbo in the Liberal Party. And he came over from Naples and set up an ice cream firm, I believe, did very well and bought up lots of property during or after the Second World War, and particularly in the heart of London, leading, of course, to the Mansion House plans and the hopes to build a Mies van der Rohe building in the Mansion House plot, which Prince Charles condemned as something unsightly. From tuberculosis to unsightly houses to unsightly tower blocks, ice cream has been behind it all, and certainly behind the term hokey pokey.